Welcome to ST Math. My name is Amy, and I'm a learning experience designer with the Mind Research Institute. And during the webinar today, I'm going to give you an introduction to what ST Math is, how kids learn through our puzzles and games, how the learning is designed, and also give you a quick tour of the teacher console so you're ready to get started with students. Now, I know that you're watching this webinar during the time when you are not able to be face-to-face with your students, when all of our schools are closed. So throughout, we're going to give you some strategies and tips for ways that you can use ST Math with your students remotely. So I want you to think for just a moment, what do you already know about ST Math? Now, you might be thinking, I don't know anything. That's why I'm here today, and that's fine. But you might have a couple of things that you've heard about ST Math. Things like kids learn math through puzzles. It's math with very little language. Or there's a penguin. And all of those things are true. By the time we're done today, you'll be able to answer that question and really have a firm understanding of what ST Math is. Don't be scared. I know that this is a fraction, but we're going to use this to demonstrate how learning happens in ST Math. So I want you to think about this problem, typical problem a student might see on a standardized test or a math textbook. What do you think students are most likely to select? A majority of students chose C or D on standardized tests. That's the incorrect answer. I want you to think about why would they pick C or D? We know in the procedure for adding fractions with unlike denominators that you have to change the denominator to a common one, and then you're going to add across the top, right? So in C and D, they might say, I remember I'm supposed to add somewhere, right? And maybe they add across the top, and they go, 19, C. Or maybe they choose to add across the bottom, right? And they say 21. So they're relying on a memorized procedure. They don't really have an understanding of what 7/8 means and what 12/13 means. So they're not able to make a good estimate, a reasonable estimate. What we would like for them to do is when they see this type of a problem, to get a picture in their mind. That's called spatial temporal reasoning. We want them to be able to manipulate objects through space and time in their mind. So what we would like them to see is that 7/8 would look like this, right? It's almost 1. And 12/13 would look like this. It's almost 1. So the reasonable estimate would be almost 2. And this is the way that ST Math teaches students math concepts, using spatial temporal reasoning so they have that deep conceptual understanding of what's going on behind the math, so then they can answer questions reasonably and apply that to symbolic problems. So let me show you what this would look like in ST Math. I'm actually going to open up this game live. This is called GG-Cycle, and you'll notice when you go to an ST Math game or when students start an ST Math game, there aren't any directions, and that's intentional. We want students to encounter novel problems and have to use their reasoning skills to figure it out. So I'm going to look at this, and I see two fractions, so I'm thinking, like, this is 3/4 and this is 1/4, so maybe it's 1 if I put those two together. And then we get that informative feedback, that animation that shows us if we were right or wrong. And in that situation, what I didn't realize is the red is subtraction. So instead of putting those two together, we're going to go forward 3/4 and then back 1/4. As students move through the levels and through the games, it becomes more complex. They have to be able to apply that reasoning to estimate fractions on a number line. So they're getting that visual, that spatial temporal picture in their head, and they're manipulating it through space and time. We didn't have time, of course, to work through all of the levels. As students work, they don't just solve problems with pictures. We also need to have them solve problems with symbols. So as they move through the levels and through the games, it will start to shift from that visual to the symbolic. So here they have to do the same thing on the number line, but they'll have to understand what 1/3 would look like and picture that in their mind. So let me show you a little bit more about what this might look like. When a student starts an ST Math game, it starts totally visually, just like this, with just a picture. What do you think this puzzle is asking you to do? You'll notice that there's some legs on these animals that are sort of dotted and grayed out. So you'll make the prediction that this puzzle is asking us to figure out how many legs there are. And think about your students, no matter what their mathematical ability or language ability is, they could still solve this problem, right? Even if they just have one-to-one correspondence, they could say 1, 2, 3, 4, and they could count up those legs. As students move through the puzzles and move through the levels, it's going to slowly add in those symbols. So here you can see that the puzzles have introduced the idea of a variable, saying this number 3 represents 3 of this animal, and this number 2 represents 2 of that animal. As they continue to move through, it will introduce the symbol for addition, and then the concept of multiplication as repeated addition, until students are solving a problem completely symbolically. Now, this is our goal. This is what students have to be able to solve. But instead of just teaching them a procedure, right, like, let's see, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or PEMDAS, or I had all kinds of different mnemonic devices and poems and posters and things to try to get them to remember what the order of operations is. In ST Math, we're going to flip that around so students aren't just relying on their memorization, they have that deep conceptual understanding of what's happening behind the math. So we're going to start them out here. So by the time they get here, they go, well, of course, I need to know how many ostrich legs there are and how many dog legs there are before I can put the two together. So they really have a deep understanding of the math that's happening. ST Math games are designed around what's called the perception action cycle. What we want students to do is to first notice what's on the screen. Even though there's no directions, they're able to notice and then make a prediction about what they think this puzzle is asking them to do. After they make their prediction, they'll make that movie in their mind, what they think is going to happen, and then they're going to select something. And it gives them that informative feedback, that animation that shows them why they were right or why they were wrong. From that animation, they're going to make a connection, like, oh, that makes sense. That's what I expected to have happen. I filled in how many shoes there are. Or if they get it wrong, it might be like, oh, that's not what I expected. This is what I'm going to try next time. Let me show you what this looks like in this game. This is a game called How Many Legs, so it looks familiar from that slider that we used. And we know from that this is asking us how many legs there are. So how many shoes would we need? So a student would select how many, they'd notice, they'd make a prediction. I think that the shoes are going to fly up, go on to the ostrich, and then the ostriches will be able to walk away. There we go. And Gigi's able to cross the screen. All right, and now we've gotten a little bit more complex, and let's see what happens if we get it wrong. So maybe I'm a student and I'm just going to make a guess. I didn't really think about the puzzle, so I didn't have quite enough. The animation shows me why it's wrong. Right? We didn't have quite enough shoes. So now I know next time that I need to have more. So maybe I would take my time and I'd go, okay, so 3 and 3 and 3 and 3 is 12. Every single puzzle, it reinforces that math concept by showing the student why it's right or why it's wrong. And here you see that we've introduced that idea of a variable. So instead of showing the 3 ostriches so I could actually count up the legs, right, I have to be able to imagine in my mind that there would be 3 of these animals. So I'd have to 2, 4, 6, or I'd use my multiplication strategies. Maybe this time I'll do too many. So this time there's too many shoes, and so they block Gigi's way, and Gigi's not able to get across. Then I can try again. Now we've gotten to the level that's completely symbolic. Just so you know, this was a sped up version of this game. Usually students would spend more time on each of the other levels. So in this one, we're going to make our selection. And then even though it's completely symbolic, it shows us that animation about why the math works. Did you notice a penguin as we've been playing? Gigi is our ST Math ambassador that accompanies students through their math journey in ST Math. Just so you know, we don't assign age or gender or identifying features to Gigi, so students can make Gigi into whatever type of math friend that they'd like. So during the games, what was Gigi doing? The object is to get Gigi across the screen without encountering any obstacles. In each game, that objective remains the same. So whatever's standing in Gigi's way, students need to clear it by playing those mathematical puzzles to get Gigi across, and students are super motivated to help Gigi on the journey. You might be wondering, this is really cool. I'm excited for my students to start playing ST Math, but does it actually work? I know that as a teacher, that time is your most valuable commodity and it's finite, right? If you're going to be recommending that students and families work on ST Math, you want to know, is it actually valuable time spent? Does it work? This is showing a graphic of studies that have been done across the United States that shows that ST Math has a huge impact on student learning. ST Math is created by the Mind Research Institute. We're a nonprofit research organization, so research is really important to us. In fact, in 2018, a third-party organization, WestEd, came in and did a study that showed nationwide when students used ST Math with Fidelity that schools had a 14 percentile increase in state standardized tests. That's the kind of results that we see with ST Math. That's the power when students are playing the games. The mission of the Mind Research Institute is to ensure that all students are mathematically equipped to solve the world's most challenging problems. And I think we can all agree that the world is facing a huge challenge right now that needs to be solved. One of the ways that we're trying to do that is by making sure that ST Math is available to all students, families, schools, so that they can continue to work towards being mathematically equipped. And we've been able to do that through the help of our donors as a nonprofit. Before all of this, we had over 1 million students that were using ST Math across the country. And since March 14th, when we started offering ST Math for free to families and schools, we've added over 500,000 more students. And I'm sure by the time you see this, we'll have added many, many more. All of this to further our mission to make sure that all students are mathematically equipped to solve the world's most challenging problems. We're going to shift gears just a little bit because I want to make sure that you have some really practical information to be successful getting ST Math started in your classroom and monitoring ST Math remotely. So if you log in to your teacher console, you'll notice that it looks like this. In the middle, you'll find a gray class card, and then along the bottom, you'll have several different buttons. On the lower right, you'll notice ST Math Central. That's a link that will take you to our teacher resource site where you can learn all about different features of ST Math, find printables and resources for students to use ST Math at home. In the lower left-hand corner, you'll find the Test Drive button. If you would like to play and preview ST Math games, you can click that button and play games from any grade level, anytime that you'd like. But I'm going to click this 20% in the middle of my card to take me to my class progress report. When you click that, it will take you to this main report where you can see all of your students and how they're doing in ST Math. I realize that it's hard because you're remote from your students. You're not able to be with them every day to monitor their progress and see what they're doing. So this will be a helpful report for you to see how many sessions students have. And just so you know, if you're logging in with a single sign-on like Clever, all of your sessions will appear to be from school because students log in the same way at home and at school. So you can monitor how many sessions students have. You can also see what they're currently playing, so what objective that they're working on, what topics that they're learning. And the final section that might be helpful is this last session. So you can look here to see the last time that students logged into ST Math to see if they're actually using it at home. Now, if you notice that there's anything funny here, like you know that a student has been using it at home, but their sessions aren't showing up, or it says that they haven't logged in several days, one thing that might be going on is that they may not be logging out correctly. So when students are playing in ST Math, they need to make sure that they log out every session. We have lots of resources that are available for families and for you to understand how students log out. This is just a quick animation. They're going to click that arrow in the lower left-hand corner to back out of the game until they see the Today's Accomplishment screen. They should see this at the end of every session. Then they click the X, and they'll see their bubbles go up, which means that they've saved their progress. So just something for you to be aware of, especially if ST Math is brand new to your school, that you'll want to remind families to log out correctly. So moving to the next tab, this is the curriculum tab that has all of the objectives that are available at your grade level. You can click on them to see a description or even test drive the games. And the other thing that you can do is you can drag to reorder. So maybe I want students to work on something that we were working on right before they went home for the social isolation. I can move those things around, click save, and now students will work on those objectives from top to bottom. So students always start up here at the top and they move through the objectives in order. So you can think about that as you're getting ready to push ST Math out to your families. The next tab is the Alerts tab. Now this one is a little bit tricky to use when you're not at school, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware that it exists so you can keep an eye on your students and see how they're doing. These are students who maybe would need a little bit of support from you. The report is designed for you to support students in the classroom, but if you notice that students are showing up on the alerts, you might want to check in with families to see if there's any questions that they have or share some resources that will help them be more successful. This is the recommended weekly usage for students in ST Math. So kindergarten and first grade, we recommend 60 minutes per week. Second grade and up, we recommend 90. As you're communicating with families, really let them know that we don't recommend having sessions more than 30 minutes. It's okay if it's less, especially with our younger students, but we don't want students to be on ST Math for hours and hours. We love that they love playing with Gigi, but we know that students need time to synthesize what they're learning, and if they rush through it really quickly, that doesn't happen as effectively. We know it's a challenge that you aren't there with your students to support them while they're using ST Math. So if you have students who are struggling, what we recommend for families or whoever is supporting the student at home is to remind them that they don't need to know how to play every puzzle. We don't want them to show the student how to solve it. What they can do is they can ask questions that will help the student understand what they're missing. So we do have some resources like the one that's up on the screen, these facilitating questions. This is a little poster that parents can have as a PDF that can give them some questions to help students think about the puzzle and move through that learning cycle. Another great recommendation for kids while they're working on ST Math at school or at home is that they use pencil and paper or a whiteboard or some sort of scratch paper. We find that students really like to use that in order to draw out their thinking or to solve the puzzle using pencil paper. Another thing is to use manipulatives. Parents may not know what manipulatives are, so let them know things that students can use to count. Things like blocks or Legos, beans, pasta, anything that they have at home that will help them to be able to kind of tangibly solve the puzzle. We also have these game mats that are on the left that go along with games, so students can use those to solve puzzles. And if parents want something to dig a little bit deeper into ST Math, we even have journal pages that students can use to think more deeply and write about the puzzles that they're solving and make those connections to the math. Now, I went through all of this really quickly, didn't even scratch the surface of all of the things that ST Math can do and all of the resources that we have. So if you have additional questions, we do have that teacher resource site, ST Math Central, so stmath.com/central. And we have a page that's specifically geared towards teachers who are using ST Math remotely during this time, so you can feel free to check that out. We also have a parent page that has a ton of resources that families can use to understand ST Math and even find some other math resources for activities and things that they can do at home. If you need support, we are here for you. We have that website, but we also have our ST Math support email, and we have the phone line. So if you are trying to figure something out or are having trouble with anything, please don't suffer in silence. Feel free to reach out to us, and we would be happy to help. Thank you so much for attending today. If there's anything else that you need, please let us know. We are so grateful for all of the things that you're doing for your students and families during this difficult time. And if there's anything that we can do at ST Math to support you, we're happy to do that.